When I picked up the phone and asked my son Michael, "So, when should I start getting ready for your wedding?" I never imagined his answer would change the rest of my life. On the other end of the line, Lauren, his wife, the young woman I once treated like my own daughter, let out a cold little laugh and said, slowly and deliberately, as if to carve each word into my chest, "Oh, we got married yesterday." Only the truly special people were invited. Those words hit me like a bucket of ice water on a sweltering Texas afternoon. Special people. And I, who had paid their rent for 3 years straight, furnished their entire apartment, and stocked their fridge when they couldn't afford groceries, apparently wasn't one of them. I stood frozen in the living room of the old wooden house my late husband had left me, clutching the phone that suddenly felt heavy as stone. Michael couldn't even look me in the eye, while Lauren sat comfortably on the very sofa I had bought them when they first moved out. In my closet hung a pale pink dress I had picked out just for his wedding. It was still there, tags untouched. I'd spent $200 on that dress, along with a new pair of shoes, picturing myself smiling proudly in wedding photos beside my only son. But there would be no such photos. For weeks, I had planned everything, saving up $1,000 as a wedding gift, calling my sister in Chicago with the good news, scrubbing every corner of my house to host a small family celebration afterward. I had pictured that moment when they'd walk through my door, when I'd hug my son tight and bless him on the most important day of his life. And then, in a matter of seconds, it all collapsed, along with those 4 cruel words. The truly special people. Michael finally spoke, his tone rehearsed. "Mom, we just wanted a small wedding. Just the 2 of us and a witness." But I knew he was lying. Social media doesn't hide the truth. I had already seen the colorful photos. Lauren in a dazzling white gown, the same woman I had given $800 just a month earlier for so-called personal expenses. Standing proudly beside them were her parents and siblings, champagne glasses raised in joy. And me? I wasn't even there to witness my son's biggest milestone. Humiliation washed over me. I, a nurse for nearly 40 years who had sacrificed everything to raise him after my husband's death, was discarded like an outsider. I still remember the moment I hung that pink dress back in the closet, my hands trembling, my chest aching. I hadn't just lost the chance to stand in a photo with my son on his wedding day. I had lost the illusion that I still belonged in his family. I looked around the house, the very place where I had skipped meals, lived on beans and rice just to scrape together money for them, where I'd spent sleepless nights worrying if they'd make rent, if their fridge was empty. And now, all that love, all those sacrifices were repaid with a smirk and a sentence that cut like a knife. Only the truly special people. In that moment, I felt pain, rage, and a dawning realization I had been too afraid to face. Maybe, to them, I was never special at all. Maybe I was just a walking wallet, an ATM with feelings. After hanging up, I sat in my living room staring blankly into the silence. My heart pounded against my ribs, and in my ears echoed those 4 bitter words. The truly special people. I walked back to my bedroom and opened the closet. The pale pink dress still hung there, untouched. I remembered standing in the store in downtown Austin, trying on several dresses before settling on that one, its soft color, perfect for wedding photos. I'd even bought matching shoes to make sure I looked my best for Michael's big day. Now, it was nothing but proof of my foolish hope. I thought of all the hours I had spent scrubbing and polishing every inch of this old wooden house, dusting the dining table, polishing the old glassware, hanging new curtains. I imagined Michael and Lauren stopping by after the church ceremony, imagined a small, cozy dinner with laughter filling the room. I had saved up $1,000 to gift them, carefully tucked in an envelope. Everything was ready, except the most important thing, an invitation. Instead of joy, I was handed humiliation. One afternoon, while scrolling through Instagram to check on my niece in Chicago, the truth slapped me in the face. There they were, Michael and Lauren's wedding photos, spread across my feed. Lauren in the stunning white dress, the same dress I had unknowingly funded with that personal $800. Her parents beside them, glowing with pride, her siblings raising glasses of champagne, everyone beaming with happiness, everyone except me. I was just a forgotten shadow, sitting alone a few miles away, shut out of what should have been the holiest moment of my son's life. I scrolled through every picture, my chest tightening. Michael and Lauren cutting their wedding cake, her parents standing proudly behind them. A short video of their first dance, friends clapping and cheering. I saw Michael smile, the same smile that once lit up my world when he was a boy, now shining for others, while I was erased from the frame. I thought of my sister Diana, to whom I had joyfully shared the news. I had told her Michael was getting married, that I'd be wearing a new dress, that we'd celebrate together. I had even told her to book a flight from Chicago. Now I didn't know how to explain this shame without breaking down. The betrayal cut deeper than I could bear. It wasn't just being left out. It was the cruel suggestion that my presence didn't matter, that I was a burden. I remembered every dollar I had stretched from my pension, every modest meal I'd eaten so I could send them money, every long line at the discount grocery store just to make sure their fridge was stocked. I'd given up even the smallest joys for myself, all in the name of love, all for a place in my son's heart. But now I knew that place had never existed. The house felt colder than ever. Every corner screamed of my sacrifices. The sofa mine, the dining table mine. Even the air conditioner I had spent $600 to repair last year when they complained about the heat, now cooling their laughter while I sat uninvited. That night, sleep never came. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, then at the pink dress still hanging in the closet. Each glance felt like a hand tightening around my heart. And then the truth hit me. Maybe for the past 3 years I had been lying to myself. I had believed that love and money would buy me appreciation. But the reality was brutally different. I was nothing but a shadow in Michael and Lauren's life. A shadow with deep pockets but invisible when it came to their real happiness. 7 days after that icy phone call, exactly 7 days, my phone rang at noon. Lauren's name flashed on the screen. I knew what was coming, but I still picked up. Her voice was no longer sharp and smug like it had been when she told me about the wedding. It trembled, rushed, like the world was about to collapse. "Evelyn, the rent's overdue this month. The landlord's threatening eviction. He says if we don't pay by the end of the week, we're out. I think you forgot to transfer the money." I stayed silent for a few seconds. My mind raced through all the lunches I'd cut short to rush to the bank, all the times I'd whispered to myself, "Just this month, then I'll stop." I remembered standing in line with a $500 check for their apartment, the familiar ping from my banking app each time I hit confirm. It had become such a routine, I'd started to believe it was my responsibility. "Are you there? The landlord's threatening to terminate the lease."
Lauren pressed, panic creeping into her tone. I drew a deep breath. When I spoke, my voice was so calm it surprised even me. "Lauren, didn't you just say you only invited the truly special people?" "I told you I only help special people." Silence on the other end. I could hear my own heartbeat. Then Lauren spoke, her voice cracking. "Evelyn, you don't understand. We've always been special to you. You're like a second mother to me." I'd heard those words before, every time she wanted something. Money for car repairs, an advance for an emergency, a little for the wedding dress. The sweet talk always came with a $sign attached. I glanced at the clock on the wall, watching the second hand tick steadily. Time moved on. I had changed. Special. I smiled, though no one could see me. Was I there on your wedding day? Another pause. It was just small. Just the two of us and a witness.
Instagram says otherwise. I cut in. Not loud, just clear. I saw your parents, your siblings, champagne glasses, the first dance. I didn't see me. I heard her breathing quicken. She shifted into pleading. Evelyn, the landlord won't wait. Please, just this one time. I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the Texas sun baking the dry grass in my yard. I thought about all the just one times that had turned into 3 years. All the nights I told myself helping them in their hard times was what a mother does, even as the hard times never ended. I spoke slowly, each word deliberate. I didn't forget the transfer. I chose not to send it. On the other end, a stunned silence. Then Lauren tried to pull Michael in. Michael will call you. Please talk to your son. Minutes later, the phone rang again. Michael. I let it ring, then stop, then ring again. The third time, I answered. Mom, about that day. Lauren was just stressed. I'm sorry we didn't tell you beforehand. But the rent? Could you help us just this month? His voice was soft, but I heard the fear underneath the fear of losing the safety net I'd woven for them. Michael, you know better than anyone what I've done these past 3 years, I said evenly. But on your wedding day, the most important day of your life, you didn't need me there. Today you need a transfer, so you call. Mom, don't say that. We've always loved you. When you need money, right? He fell silent. I continued, still calm. Starting today, the financial help stops. I'm not paying your rent anymore. You're grown. You can't do that now. We'll get evicted. His voice shot up, panic breaking through. I've been doing it for 3 years. Today I stop. I heard Lauren whispering in the background, prompting him. He lowered his voice, pleading. Maybe just this month. Next month we'll handle it ourselves. I shook my head, though he couldn't see me. No more maybes. I ended the call. The house felt strangely quiet. I set the phone on the table and looked at my hands. They weren't shaking anymore. A new kind of stillness spread through me. The kind you feel when you finally close a door you've dragged open for too long. That evening, I didn't turn on the TV. I sat at the dining table, the same table where I'd calculated how to make the fifth for them so many times. This time, I pulled out my checkbook and bank statements, not to send money out, but to look back at what I'd done with the money from my own life. Not to punish myself, but to draw a line under a habit. Before bed, I silenced my phone. I knew they'd call again, maybe text, maybe beg or get angry. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't on call for endless emergencies. Tonight, I was on call for myself. For sleep. For a morning where I'd wake up with a clearer decision. Tomorrow, I'd go through every statement, write down every number, and name every dollar I'd cut from my life for them. Not to demand it back, but to remember. To know exactly when it's time to take myself back. That night, after hanging up, I cried. Not soft, wounded tears, but tears of rage and grief built over years of being taken for granted. I cried for all the times my love was treated like a burden. For all the moments my presence wasn't worth a phone call, except when money was needed. I cried for the mother who had tried to be useful by paying bills instead of being loved as a person. The next morning, I brewed a pot of coffee. No TV, no waiting for an apology text. I pulled out the same dining chair, the one where I'd sat countless times figuring out how to make the fifth for the kids, and spread my checkbook and bank statements across the table. Today, I needed to see the truth in numbers. I began writing down each expense. Rent, $500 per month. 36 months equals $18,000. Groceries and household supplies, roughly $200 per month. 36 months equals $7,200. Gifts, birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries, at least $3,000. Lauren's medical emergency, $800. Michael's car loan, still unpaid, $2,500. Repairing their apartment AC, $600. Brand new sofa for their first apartment, $1,200. I totaled it carefully, line by line. $33,400 pulled from my pension, from the savings I'd scraped together all my life, from the money my late husband left so I could live out my old age in peace. All spent to keep two adults comfortable, people who couldn't even pretend to honor me on their wedding day. I stared at the numbers for a long time. Numbers don't lie. They laid bare what my heart had been avoiding. For 3 years, I had been buying my place in their lives and still got shut out of their most sacred moment. I flipped through more statements. Each ACH transfer rent $500 was a haircut I skipped. A book I put back on the shelf for next month. A private pep talk that this is what mothers do. Each grocery charge, $62.13, $87.40, $104.25, was another night of beans and rice so their fridge would be full. Each furniture swipe was a whispered promise that they'll understand my heart. A promise never kept. I underlined $33,400, drew another line, circled it. The number looked like a loop of rope I had tied around my own life. I set down my pen, my heart steady. No more denial, no more excuses, only truth. The phone rang. Michael's name flashed. I let it go. Once, twice. Then Lauren. Another text. Mom, please answer. We need to talk. I deleted it without replying. These calls had become a script. I knew every line. Under the total, I wrote a small note, almost a whisper to myself. From today on, my money will be for my life. I got up and rinsed my coffee cup. Warm water ran over my hands. Another warmth moved through me. Clarity. 3 years ago, I thought I was building a family. Today, I understood I'd been feeding a habit that let others lean on me while I disappeared. I looked around my kitchen. This kitchen had witnessed me pouring money into things that weren't mine. From now on, it would witness something else. Me investing in myself, not with grand gestures, but with clear choices. Stopping what needs to stop, keeping what needs to stay. I folded the statements into a cardboard folder. I'd keep it as a file of truth, not to shame anyone, but to steady myself whenever I wavered, to remember how I got here. The house was quiet. I heard the leaves rustling outside. A part of me still wanted to make excuses for Michael, to find a reason to help one more time. But each time that thought rose, I saw $33,400, and I knew what the right thing was. I exhaled deeply. Tomorrow would bring decisions. Some habits must end, some doors must close so others can open. But today, I had done the first thing. Looked the truth in the eye. And put a period at the end of a chapter where others defined my worth by a dollar amount. I turned off the dining room light. In the dark, the circled $33,400 still glowed in my mind, not to haunt me, but to remind me. Because forgetting is how it all began, and remembering is how I'll end it. The next morning, I woke up feeling completely different. Same old room, same faded curtains, same bed I'd slept in for more than 20 years, yet everything looked brighter, lighter. No more sleepless nights wondering, how will I cover their rent, or how much do they need now? Today, there was only one thought in my mind, freeing myself from that spiral. I slipped into simple clothes, tied my hair back, and drove to the bank branch downtown. For 3 years, I'd gone there like clockwork, month after month, to do one thing: transfer money to Michael and Lauren. The tellers knew me so well they didn't even ask. They just smiled knowingly as if to say, "Here to help the kids again?" Today I sat across from Mr. Klein, the branch manager, a calm middle-aged man. He looked surprised when I spoke. I want to cancel all automatic transfers to Michael and Lauren. And I'd like advice on how to protect my account. He studied me, as if making sure he'd heard right. For years, those funds had flowed out like an alarm clock. He asked gently, "Mrs. Evelyn, is everything all right? Are you sure you want to stop?" I nodded, my voice steady. "Yes. The only thing that's happened is I've woken up. I need to keep what's left for myself." He didn't pry. He simply printed the forms, explained each section, and slid them over for my signature. While he worked, my phone vibrated over and over, Michael's number, then Lauren's. I let it ring. The sound repeated like a frantic heartbeat from someone realizing their lifeline was about to be cut. When I signed the last line, it felt like snipping an invisible chain I'd worn for years. Something heavy slid off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I smiled. Mr. Klein handed back the confirmation. "All transfers are canceled. From now on, your account belongs only to you. I've also added extra security. No one but you can touch your money." I gripped the papers tightly. This man, a stranger who knew me only by numbers and transactions, showed me more genuine care than my own son had. His words, "Your account belongs only to you," echoed like a reminder. This life also belongs only to me. As I stepped out of the bank, the Texas noon sun scorched the pavement, but it felt warm, not harsh. For 3 years, I had poured $33,400 into buying a fake presence. Today, I had finally reclaimed my worth, not just in dollars, but in the right to decide. My phone kept ringing. I knew storms lay ahead, pleading, crocodile tears, maybe even threats. But this time I wasn't trembling. This time I had chosen me. I drove home from the bank, the Texas heat shimmering on the road. As I turned onto my street, my heart skipped. 3 cars were parked tightly by the curb. Michael's, Lauren's, and an unfamiliar gray sedan. Through my living room window, I saw movement inside. They had keys. Long ago, I'd given Michael a set, thinking one day he might need to check on me. I never imagined he'd use them for this. I took a deep breath and opened the door. The scene before me is one I'll never forget. Michael slumped on the sofa, the very sofa I'd bought for their apartment. Lauren pacing like a cornered animal. And a man in a gray suit standing at my dining table, flipping through papers. My papers. "What's going on here?" My voice was calmer than I felt. They all turned, their faces a mix of guilt and indignation, as if I were the intruder. Lauren spoke first. "Evelyn, thank God you're back. We need to talk. This is Mr. Collins, a family attorney. We're worried about you." "Worried about me?" I crossed the room, scooping up the documents he'd been rifling through. "These are my private papers. You have no right to touch them without permission." Mr. Collins straightened his tie, shifting into a professional tone. "Mrs. Evelyn, I understand your feelings, but your son and daughter-in-law are concerned about your mental health. At your age, there can be periods of confusion. We're here to help, specifically, to propose a temporary financial power of attorney so Michael can manage things for you until everything stabilizes." Michael chimed in, feigning gentleness. "Mom, you've been acting off lately. You cut the transfer suddenly, no warning. I'm worried about you." I looked him straight in the eye. Worried or panicking because the money stopped? The air froze. Lauren reached for my hand, putting on her sweetest voice. "Evelyn, loneliness can make anyone confused. At your age, temporary lapses are normal. Let us help you sign these forms, just for now. I pulled my hand back, my voice clear. I'm not confused. I'm more clear-minded than I've been in years, and no one is signing anything in this house today, except you three signing yourselves out. Mr. Collins opened his briefcase, pulling out a packet with sticky flags marking the signature lines. Mrs. Evelyn, this is just a formality, a smooth transition of authority. Please read, sign here and here. I took the packet without opening it and dropped it straight into the kitchen trash. The only transition today is you transitioning out my door. Michael sprang up, face flushed like when he was a boy denied a treat. You can't do this to us. The rent, the car, the credit cards you co-signed, you can't just stop overnight. Can't I? My voice stayed even. For 3 years I've paid rent on an apartment that isn't mine, filled a fridge in a home that doesn't welcome me, funded a life that had no place. For me, even on your wedding day. Today I'm doing what I should have done long ago. Lauren's tears appeared on cue. We've never mistreated you. You're family. Everything you have will be ours anyway. We're just speeding up the process. That line ripped the mask right off. There it was. In their eyes, I wasn't a mother but an asset. A walking account waiting to be inherited. I pointed to the door. Out. All 3 of you. Now. Mr. Collins tried one last measured threat. Mrs. Evelyn, if you refuse, the family can petition the court to evaluate your capacity. A guardian could be appointed. I urge you to reconsider. I stepped closer, voice steady. Do whatever you think you must. But before you threaten a 71-year-old widow who has managed her finances for 40 years, filed every tax on time, and just stopped bankrolling 2 healthy adults, ask yourself who really needs the court's protection. Michael softened, trying to pivot. Mom, the wedding was a misunderstanding. Lauren was nervous. I was under pressure. We can fix this. Just go back to how things were. How things were means me paying every bill while you erase me from the most important day of your life. No, Michael. Today I'm reasonable on my terms. Lauren's tears vanished. Her eyes went cold. This isn't over, Evelyn. We have a lawyer. We have rights. Great. Hire as many lawyers as you like, on your dime. Because my money isn't funding this drama anymore. I opened the door wide. Silence stretched. Mr. Collins gave Michael a slight, resigned nod. The nod of someone who knows the first blow has failed. They filed out with the wounded pride of people accustomed to getting their way. At the threshold, Michael turned back. You're going to end up alone. When you really need help, no one will be there. I met his eyes, my voice clear and soft. I've been alone already, Michael. The difference now is I chose it, not because I was abandoned, but because I refused to be used. The door closed behind them. The house fell quiet. I stood in the living room, feeling my heartbeat slow and steady. In that silence, a new sound emerged, freedom. Yet Mr. Collins's words echoed in my mind, guardianship, court. I understood this wasn't the end. This was the start of a battle I'd fight with my mind, not my wallet. I locked the door, gathered the papers they'd rifled through, and filed them under a new label, evidence. That evening, before the sun dipped behind the old oaks, I sat on the porch, letting the hot wind brush my hair. I knew storms lay ahead, but this time, I had the roof of boundaries, the lock of reason, and the key in my own hand. After that dramatic home intrusion, I knew I didn't have the luxury of hesitation. Michael and Lauren wouldn't stop. The lawyer's threat, the court can appoint a guardian, kept ringing in my head like an alarm bell. The next morning, in the simple blouse with every bank statement, transfer receipt, and bill in the folder, I went to see Mr. Weber, a lawyer I'd worked with years ago when settling my late husband's estate. Steady, respected, and known in town for protecting seniors from financial abuse. I told him everything. The transfers over 3 years, The secret wedding, Michael and Lauren barging into my home with the lawyer and rifling through my private papers. Mr. Weber listened without interrupting, just nodding and taking notes. When I finished, he sighed. Evelyn, what you've experienced isn't rare. This is elder financial abuse, and it's a crime. We need a detailed file so anyone can see this is exploitation, not concern. I handed him the tally I'd done the night before. $33,400 over 3 years. He looked through it and shook his head. That money could have paid for travel, comfort your life. Instead, you supported 2 adults who couldn't give you the basic respect you deserve. This is a very clear abuse record. We spent nearly 3 hours reviewing each expense. Mr. Weber told me to preserve every shred of evidence, emails, texts, bank statements. He also advised changing every lock, installing cameras, and moving my accounts to a different bank, one Michael and Lauren knew nothing about. Leaving his office, I felt like I'd laid the first brick of a new fortress, one that protected me. But I also knew this was only the beginning. Michael and Lauren wouldn't just walk away from the easy lifeline I'd cut. That afternoon, I hired a locksmith, just as Mr. Weber suggested. When the new deadbolt clicked shut with a solid snap, a calm I'd never known washed over me. I was building a real boundary between me and them. That evening, the phone lit up again and again, not just Michael and Lauren, but unknown numbers. I didn't answer. I brewed tea, opened my window to a Texas sunset burning red over the rooftops, and told myself, the fight has started. But this time, I'll fight with my head, not my wallet. I left Mr. Weber's office with a clear plan. New locks, cameras, a new bank, save every piece of evidence, and headed straight to the hardware store at the edge of town. Mr. Summer, the owner, who's known me for years, mostly from buying supplies to fix Michael and Lauren's apartment, looked up and smiled. Mrs. Evelyn, more projects for the kids? I shook my head, calm. No, Mr. Summer. This time, it's for my house. I want to change every lock, the best you've got. He paused, then asked nothing more. I saw understanding in his eyes. While I was choosing locks, his son Ethan, the security installer, walked in. Just finished a camera job across the street, he said. I turned, like fate had nudged me. Ethan, I need the full setup. Exterior cameras, door sensors, and direct dispatch to the police on intrusion. Price isn't the issue. Father and son walked me through the options, coverage, storage, install time. We booked for the next morning. While we talked, my phone rang from an unknown number. I'd already blocked Michael and Lauren after the break-in, so unknown meant Lauren was using someone else's phone. Evelyn, don't hang up. Let's talk like adults. Lauren's voice purred. Say what you need to say, I replied. I know you're upset about the wedding. We were wrong. We want to make it right. How about dinner tonight? We can cook like we used to. Her tone was soft, almost syrupy, but every word pulsed with old manipulation. I cut in. How many months behind on rent are you? Silence. Then, 2 months. $1,000, but that's not why I'm calling, Evelyn. We miss you. You miss me or my money? A beat. Then the naked truth, almost honest in its bluntness. Both. I won't lie. We need your help financially. But we love you too. You matter to us. If I matter, why wasn't I at your wedding? And when was the last time you called me just to check in, with no ask attached? Silence. We both knew the answer. Never. Lauren, hear me clearly. For 3 years, you and Michael treated me like an ATM with feelings. You used me, ignored me, and humiliated me with 4 words, truly special people. Now the money's drying up, and suddenly I'm loved. There will be no make-peace dinner here. I hung up, then powered the phone down. I wanted to protect my first day of freedom from any more interruptions. That afternoon, I did the thing I'd postponed for a year. I went to the salon. Cynthia, my favorite stylist, lit up when she saw me. Good Lord, Mrs. Evelyn, I thought you'd forgotten about us. I didn't forget, I smiled. I just forgot I deserve care. I booked the works, cut, color, manicure, pedicure. In the mirror, I watched a woman return, eyes brighter, spine a little straighter. Cynthia chatted about her kids, tuition, little dreams. It felt like forever since I'd had a conversation that wasn't about bills, rent, or can you transfer it by the 5th? When she held up the mirror behind my head, her voice was warm and certain. You look beautiful. But more than that, you look free. I laughed. Free landed on my shoulder like a gentle hand comfort, and a promise at once. With sunlight still skimming the rooftops, I stopped by a small market for dinner. I picked what I wanted, fresh asparagus, a piece of salmon, a bottle of cold brew tea, instead of the mental checklist of what the kids need tonight that had owned my brain for 3 years. Back home, Ethan texted to confirm the security install for morning. The new locks were spread out on my table. I stuck a small label on my file cabinet, "Do not touch." It wasn't for others. It was for me. A reminder. From now on, boundaries are sacred. Night fell. No TV, no phone patrol. I listened to the insects on the porch, the wind moving through the trees, and the quiet inside my chest. The sound I'd traded away for $33,400. Tomorrow, the new locks will turn, and the cameras will blink on. But tonight, something switched on in me first. The will to hold on to my own life. As the Texas evening cooled, I had just set my grocery bag on the counter when a soft knock sounded at the door. Through the peephole, I saw a petite older woman holding a steaming paper cup. "Mrs. Evelyn?" she said when I opened. "I'm Dorothy. Call me Dot from across the street. I heard some arguing at your house yesterday and got worried. I brought you some hot coffee. Are you all right?" I invited her in. The way Dot stepped over the threshold, hesitant but warm, gave me a comfort I hadn't expected. We sat at my dining table. I told her everything. The secret wedding, the words only truly special people, the 3 years of transfers, the $33,400, the break-in with the lawyer, and my decision that morning to stop the payments. Dot listened quietly, never interrupting. When I finished, her eyes were damp. "You did the right thing," she said softly. "I went through the same thing 5 years ago. My daughter called only when she needed money. I thought endless giving was what mothers do. Then one day I stopped. The first 3 months, the guilt ate me alive. She yelled, cried, threatened. But 6 months later, she called back, apologized for real. That's when our relationship truly began, without money in the middle. Her words settled in me like both a release and a sting. "Do you think Michael and Lauren could ever understand one day?" I asked quietly. Dot sipped her coffee, set the cup down, and answered gently but firmly. "Maybe. Maybe not. But that's no longer your responsibility. Your responsibility now is to live your own life." We spoke about locks and cameras. I told her Ethan would be coming at 8 a.m. tomorrow to install the system cameras all around, door sensors, and a direct police alert. Dot nodded. "Some neighbors may whisper you're paranoid. Let them. Safety is never excessive, especially when the one you're protecting is yourself." Before leaving, she held my hand. "Turn your phone off tonight. Sleep through. If you need anything, I'll check on you in the morning."
At 8 sharp the next morning, Ethan and Mr. Summer arrived. They worked methodically mapping blind spots, setting up the phone app to view footage, alerts for forced entry. Ethan added an emergency button, one tap, and police would be notified. "You'll have full control, Mrs. Evelyn," he said. "Even when you're away, you'll know who comes near." I nodded. A pang of sadness crossed me installing this system not against strangers, but against my own son. Yet a calm followed. Reality, though painful, was safer than illusions. While drills buzzed and cameras clicked into place, My phone vibrated nonstop, unknown numbers. I didn't answer. I was learning a new habit, ignoring what isn't healthy. All set, Ethan said, handing me the controls. Anyone who shows up uninvited will be recorded. You can share clips with police or your lawyer.
I thanked them, paid, and when they left, the house felt sturdier, not from brick and mortar, but from the boundary I had finally built. At noon, I called my sister Diana in Chicago. We hadn't been close in years. Too many calls where I bragged about helping Michael and Lauren, like it was an accomplishment. "Diana," I said the moment she picked up. "I've woken up." I told her everything, the secret wedding, the phrase special people, the $33,400, the break-in, the locks, the cameras. She exhaled, almost as if she'd been waiting years to hear it. "Evelyn, it's about time. Every call I ached because you measured love in dollars. Let me be blunt. Whenever I saw Michael at family gatherings, he never once said, 'I miss Mom,' or 'I love Mom.' He said, 'Mom paid this, Mom bought that.' And Lauren? She'd make comments like, 'When Evelyn's gone, we'll redo the house. When we inherit, we'll invest.' As if you were already dead and they were counting your money." Her words sliced through me like a cold wind, but they were cleansing, like a doctor flushing a wound raw so it can heal. "Thank you," I whispered. I needed to hear that. We sat in silence on the line, but I felt closer to her than I had in years. "Evelyn," she added, "from now on, invest in your joy. The grateful ones will show up. The leeches will fall away." After hanging up, I opened my window. The hot air carried burnt grass and asphalt, but the house around me was different. New locks, new cameras, and most of all, a new me. That night, I slept straight through. No phone buzzing, no midnight checking transfers, no sighing over bills that weren't mine. In my sleep, something light and new stirred. A beginning. I wasn't naive enough to think the storm was over. Michael and Lauren would come back, maybe harder. But now I had the porch light, the cameras, and most of all, a spine finally standing straight. If they came again, I'd call everything by its real name. The next morning, I was settling into a simple breakfast toast, strawberry jam, and hot coffee when I heard the clack of mail in the box. I stepped outside and found a thick envelope, stamped from a law office. Inside was an official notice. Michael and Lauren had filed a petition with the local court for a capacity evaluation. They claimed I showed signs of being unable to manage finances, making irrational decisions, and posing a risk of self-harm to assets. I held the letter, throat tight and bitter. This was my son, the boy I raised, the one who cried into my chest after losing a high school game, the one who begged for his first guitar. And now, he had signed a document declaring his mother unfit to live her own life. I called Mr. Weber immediately. His calm voice was steady, like he'd seen this play before. "Just as I expected. Evelyn, this is the classic move of those trying to seize control of an elder's estate. But you are not alone. We will respond." He told me to bring everything. I gathered it all: bank statements, bills, transfer receipts, even the notebook where I'd logged every dollar I'd sent them. That afternoon, I sat with him and his paralegal. He read through each page, then looked at me. "They want to prove you're confused, unstable. But these numbers say the opposite. You've tracked every cent, documented clearly, and knew when to stop. This is evidence of clarity, not decline." I nodded, a little lighter. "But," he warned, "they'll try to smear you. Expect claims that you're lonely, erratic, paranoid. Evelyn, prepare yourself. And we'll need witnesses, neighbors, friends, anyone who can testify that you are sound and independent." Immediately I thought of Dot across the street who had heard everything, Cynthia at the salon, Mr. Summer and Ethan, who'd helped me choose and install security. Mr. Weber smiled. Perfect. You already have a circle of community witnesses. That's the strength Michael and Lauren never counted on. They thought you were isolated, but you have people who've seen the truth. That night, reading through the legal packet again, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, but the tone was familiar. If you cancel, the lawyer, we can stop this case. Just sign the power of attorney. I'm protecting you from yourself, don't you see? I read it slowly, then deleted it without replying. Any answer, even a dot, would give them an opening. I set the phone down, leaned back in my chair, and breathed deep. I couldn't believe I was facing my own child in a courtroom battle. But another truth was even clearer. I was finally awake enough to stand up, instead of being drained dry. That night I wrote in the small journal I keep in my bedside drawer. Tomorrow, the legal war begins. My son wants to prove I've lost my capacity. But today, as I write this line, I have never felt more clear-minded. I closed the journal and turned off the light. In the dark, I heard the tick of the clock. No longer a countdown to the next transfer, but a countdown to a day of justice, where I would prove the truth. The next morning, while reviewing the lawsuit packet, the doorbell rang. On my camera screen stood a neatly dressed woman, briefcase in hand, badge clipped to her jacket. Mrs. Evelyn Parker? I'm Miss Schmidt, a social worker from the Office of Elder Services. We've received a report that you may be at risk. I need to conduct a welfare check. I examined her badge and credentials carefully before nodding. Even her polite voice couldn't hide the script I'd been warned about. Concerned relatives, unusual behavior, possible intervention. Mr. Weber had told me, when abusers can't get money, they build a case for incompetence. I want to call my lawyer before I answer anything, I said evenly. This is just a welfare check, not an interrogation. If you have nothing to hide, answering shouldn't be a problem. That phrase, if you have nothing to hide, hit a nerve. It was the same pressure tactic abusers use to force open doors. Still calm, I replied. I'll call my lawyer. You can wait here or reschedule. 20 minutes later, Mr. Weber arrived. He inspected Ms. Schmidt's papers, then spoke clearly. My client has legal representation. Without a court order, all discussion will happen in my presence, and I'll be documenting this entire meeting. Ms. Schmidt opened her notebook. We've received reports that Mrs. Parker abruptly cut off financial support to her son, installed excessive cameras, isolated herself, and refused medical/legal help from family. Can you explain? I looked her square in the eye. I cut support after 3 years of covering rent, groceries, repairs, $33,400 total out of my pension and savings. The cameras are to protect me from people who once entered my home without permission and went through private documents. I'm not isolated. I have neighbors, friends, and community ties. As for health, I'm fine. I manage my own meds, vitamins, the occasional aspirin, and legally I hire my own attorney, by choice. Mr. Weber laid out a stack of documents. Here are bank statements and receipts showing my client's precise financial management. Here's the security contract and lock invoices. Reasonable actions after unauthorized entry. Feel free to review. Ms. Schmidt's brow furrowed as she wrote. Do you live alone? Drive yourself? Shop and cook on your own? Yes, please, look around. My home is clean, organized. I take care of myself. Any recent sleep issues, memory loss, aggressive behavior? I've lost sleep only because my son filed a lawsuit calling me incompetent, not because my mind is failing. And the only aggression here is reclaiming my boundaries. Mr. Weber added calmly, for the record, After the unlawful home intrusion, we filed for a temporary restraining order. Any contact outside legal counsel is harassment. My client doesn't need guardianship. She needs respect. Ms. Schmidt glanced at her notes. I see in the file you declined a psychological evaluation arranged by family. Why? Because it was part of their strategy to strip me of rights. If necessary, I'll choose an independent evaluator appointed through my attorney. The house was still. Wind rattled the dry eaves. Finally, Miss Schmidt closed her notebook, her voice softening. Mrs. Parker, I see no evidence of incapacity. Your finances are clear, your independence intact, your social supports strong. I'll be closing this welfare check with a note, no intervention required. Relief wasn't fear melting. It was one more distortion peeled away. Before leaving, she asked, would you like me to note you as a potential victim of elder financial abuse? That designation helps if further harassment or threats occur. Police and courts weigh it heavily. Yes, please do. The door shut behind her. Mr. Weber and I stood silent for a moment. Then he said, they'll escalate, bring in false witnesses, twist context. But today we gained a milestone. An independent agency confirms you are competent. I'll file this as evidence in our response. I poured him water, poured myself tea. In the golden light spilling through the window, I caught my reflection in the glass table. Shoulders straighter, eyes sharper, jaw unclenched. The storm was far from over, but I had an anchored truth, officially recorded, not just told in my tears. That afternoon, Dot stopped by with a tin of homemade cookies. When I told her briefly, she smiled. See? Clarity always wins. Save your strength. If they spin lies, we'll peel back every layer. Paper beats tears. That night, I opened my journal. Under lawsuit, I added a new line. Welfare check, closed. Beside it, I drew a bold question mark. I turned off the light. Outside, the cameras blinked softly. Inside, I pulled my old quilt around me, not to hide, but to rest, in the battle where I finally knew which side I was on. My own. That morning, I woke earlier than usual. Not from anxiety, but from clarity. This was the day. The day I would stand in Travis County Court, face to face with Michael, Lauren, and their team of lawyers. I chose a simple navy dress and my beige coat, worn for years. In the mirror, I saw a 71-year-old widow, silver in her hair, but brightness in her eyes. I didn't need to look younger. I only needed to look truthful. A mother, a widow, a citizen, still sound and strong. The courthouse was packed. In the hallway, I saw Michael and Lauren with Mr. Collins, the same family lawyer who'd rifled my dining table. Michael avoided my gaze. Lauren pursed her lips, staging her misunderstood victim look. But beneath their faces, I read it. Fear. When the money stopped flowing, their fallback was the law. Mr. Weber placed a steady hand on my shoulder. Let me guide this. Today isn't the trial. It's the preliminary hearing. They'll present evidence, we'll rebut, and the judge decides whether to proceed or dismiss. I nodded. My heart raced, but not from fear, from the sharp line I felt being drawn at last. Inside, Judge Martinez, mid-50s, stern but not unkind, called the session. This matter concerns the civil capacity evaluation of Mrs. Evelyn Parker. Petitioners, proceed. Mr. Collins rose, voice smooth as polished stone. Your Honor, we represent Mrs. Parker's son and daughter-in-law. In recent months, they've observed troubling behavior, abruptly cutting off financial support, excessive spending on surveillance and locks, isolating herself from family. They fear she can no longer responsibly manage her estate. We request temporary financial guardianship. I nearly laughed through my anger. They were calling my refusal to bankroll them troubling behavior. Mr. Weber rose, laying a thick stack of files on the podium. Your Honor, these are Mrs. Parker's bank records, receipts, and logs showing meticulous financial management. Over 3 years, she transferred $33,400 to the petitioners, without loan agreements, without repayment. This is elder financial exploitation, not incompetence. He opened another folder. Here's the report from Elder Services after their in-home visit. No evidence of incapacity. Mrs. Parker is independent, competent, self-sufficient, and socially supported. This is an independent state agency's conclusion. The courtroom murmured. Judge Martinez raised her hand for silence, then turned to me. Mrs. Parker, would you like to speak? I rose. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice was steady. Your Honor, I am 71 years old. I've managed my life, my finances, and my home for decades. Yes, I helped my son and daughter-in-law, but help turned into exploitation. When I chose to stop, they accused me of incompetence. If protecting myself after 3 years of being drained is considered irrational, then I ask you to call that clarity. For a moment, the room held its breath. Judge Martinez studied me, as though reading the truth between each wrinkle on my face. She tapped her gavel lightly. The court acknowledges the respondent's statement. This hearing will proceed with witnesses next week. Until then, the court denies the request for temporary guardianship. Mrs. Parker retains full control of her assets. Outside, I inhaled deeply. Not victory yet, but today, in a public courtroom, before a judge, I had defended the right to my own life. Mr. Weber smiled. A critical step, Evelyn, and I believe you're stronger than they ever imagined. I gripped my folder tightly. Inside, I whispered to myself, they can twist, they can sue, but no one will ever again define me as incompetent. A week after the preliminary hearing, we were back in court. Today was witness testimony. I sat beside Mr. Weber, arms wrapped around my meticulously tabbed binder. The petitioners called Lauren first. She took the stand with wet eyes and a trembling voice, as if a tap would shatter her. Evelyn has completely changed, she said. She's suspicious, isolating, won't listen to anyone. She's like a second mother to me. Mr. Collins nodded, guiding her. Any unusual behavior from Mrs. Parker? She cut off the rent without warning, installed cameras everywhere because she's paranoid and avoids the family. On cross, Mr. Weber rose, measured and precise. Mrs. Lauren, when was the last time you called Mrs. Parker without asking for money? Lauren froze. We talk about many things. A date, please. I don't remember. Did you and your husband hold a wedding without inviting Mrs. Parker? It was a small ceremony. Did you tell Mrs. Parker, we only invited truly special people? Color rose to Lauren's cheeks. That sentence was taken out of context. What context would make that appropriate to say to your mother-in-law? The room went silent. Lauren looked down and didn't answer. Michael was next. He stared at the ceiling, avoiding my eyes. My mother is being manipulated. She cut off the money, changed locks, installed cameras. She's not the same. On cross, Mr. Weber opened a summary page. Mr. Michael, how much money did you receive from your mother over 3 years? I'm not sure. $33,400. Is that accurate? Michael swallowed. Possibly. My mother has always been generous. At 35, do you need your 71-year-old mother to cover your rent every month? Silence. Did you and your wife enter Mrs. Parker's home without permission and go through her papers? We were worried about her. Did you bring a lawyer to pressure her to sign a financial power of attorney? We just wanted to help manage things. They called a neighbor of theirs, Mr. Davis. He boomed. She put up cameras like it's a war zone, yelled in the yard, always had strangers coming over. Mr. Weber clarified. Have you ever spoken directly with Mrs. Parker? No. Did you know the yelling was her asking her son and daughter-in-law to leave after they entered without permission? I didn't know. And your strangers were scheduled neighbors and security installers. You lack the context, correct? I wasn't aware. The petitioners also produced a psychiatrist, Dr. Lehman, retained by them. He admitted he'd never examined me, only opined that refusing evaluation could indicate decline. Then came our witnesses. Mr. Green, the pharmacist near my house, looked uneasy, but honest. Weeks ago, Lauren asked about Mrs. Parker's medications. I told her she only buys vitamins and occasional aspirin. No chronic prescriptions. She handed me a form to sign. I assumed it was insurance. I later learned it was used to suggest erratic medication use. That is untrue. Next, Dr. Moore, the independent capacity specialist Mr. Weber hired, testified methodically. I performed a comprehensive assessment: memory, attention, reasoning, financial understanding, daily living skills. Mrs. Parker scored above average for her age group. No evidence of cognitive impairment. She understands her assets, identifies risks, and gave logical reasons for stopping financial support to her son. Then Mr. Summer, the hardware store owner, and Ethan, the security installer. Mr. Summer. Mrs. Parker initiated the lock change, asked detailed questions, and paid clearly and promptly. Nothing impulsive. Ethan. She articulated the reason for cameras, self-protection after an intrusion. The system we installed was standard. She grasped the operation thoroughly. Cynthia from the salon testified too. I've seen Mrs. Evelyn regularly. She chats normally, tells coherent stories, and talks about an art class and volunteering. Her mood is good. Finally, Dot Harris, my neighbor. She looked directly at the judge, voice warm and firm. I've lived across from Mrs. Evelyn for years. She's independent, drives herself, social. Recently, she learned to say no after 3 years of being taken advantage of. I've lived this. Setting boundaries isn't incompetence, it's the return of competence. Then it was my turn. I placed my palm on the cool wood of the stand. Mr. Weber kept it simple. Why did you stop financial support? Because what I was getting back wasn't love. It was a transaction. Money for presents. And on the most important day of my son's life, his wedding, I was invisible. Stopping was the only way to respect myself. Mr. Collins tried to press me. Are you paranoid? Excessive cameras, repeated lock changes. I changed locks after they entered without permission. I installed cameras because safety matters. And I'm 71. I don't move like I did at 30. That's not paranoia, that's prudence. Were you influenced by others to turn on your family? I didn't turn on family. I turned away from exploitation. When I stepped down, I saw Lauren's hands clenched, nails digging into her palms. Michael looked away. In that room, I could feel the mask of worried about Mom cracking. Numbers, independent witnesses, and a formal capacity evaluation had told the story more cleanly than any speech. Judge Martinez took notes, then looked up. The court accepts all testimony. I'll recess to deliberate and issue a ruling at the next session. We left the courtroom. The hall smelled of polished wood and floor cleaner. Mr. Weber murmured, "Today every arrow they shot broke in midair." Our evidence flew straight. I gripped my binder, once a scrapbook of my naivete, now my anchor. I knew the ruling was close, And I knew that, whatever the outcome, I'd stood upright inside my own story. On the day of the ruling, Travis County Court was packed. I wore a plain black suit and pinned on a small brooch of my late husband's to feel him with me. Beside me, Mr. Weber held our file, every page flagged. I drew a deep breath, as if gathering all 71 of my years into this moment. Petitioners went first. Mr. Collins's voice was clipped and hard as he painted me as a senile widow, manipulated by outsiders. I cut money irrationally, installed cameras out of paranoia, rejected my son because I'd been influenced. He stared at the judge. Your Honor, this is cognitive decline. Without guardianship, Mrs. Parker will continue to be exploited. Lauren sat front row, tears streaming like the devoted daughter-in-law. Michael wouldn't meet my eyes, jaw tight, fists clenched. Then Mr. Weber stood, voice low and solid. Your Honor, the petitioners offer speculation without evidence. The clinical capacity assessment shows Mrs. Parker is fully competent. Bank records and witnesses confirm her conduct is reasonable. What the petitioners lost isn't a mother. It's an income stream. This isn't protection. This is elder financial abuse. The judge asked me, Mrs. Parker, would you like to speak before the court rules? I rose, voice trembling just a touch, but clear. I gave $33,400 over 3 years. That was my lifetime savings and my husband's legacy. I gave it hoping for love, and in return I became invisible and used. I stopped not because I lost my mind, but because I finally found it. I don't regret helping, only that I waited so long to stop. Silence settled like a cloth. Judge Martinez put on her glasses, voice decisive. Having reviewed the evidence, testimony, and expert evaluations, the court finds Mrs. Evelyn Parker is fully competent. The petition for guardianship is denied. She paused, looking toward Michael and Lauren. The court also notes credible indications of elder financial abuse. This record will be referred to the appropriate investigative authorities. Lauren went pale. Michael bowed his head. Mr. Collins quietly packed his file. Behind them, I caught Dot and a few friends from the garden club smiling, thumbs up. Mr. Weber leaned to my ear. You won, and this is bigger than just you. I stepped into the Austin afternoon. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely free. No more dread at every ring of the phone. No more mental math for transfers that weren't mine. Inside me, one sentence rang clear. I took my life back. When the courthouse doors closed behind me, I stepped onto the sun-drenched sidewalk of Austin. The wind lifted my silver hair, and for the first time in years, I felt lighter than air, like I'd just been released from a long sentence. That evening, Dot Harris and friends from the garden club came over. They brought fresh flowers, homemade pies, and a bottle of red wine. We sat around my dining table, laughing, clinking glasses, not only to celebrate the legal victory, but to celebrate that I'd reclaimed my life. "Evelyn," said Alfreda, an 80-year-old with eyes full of wisdom, "today you didn't just win in court, you won yourself back. From now on, you're not someone's victim. You're the author of your own life." Her words went straight to my heart. In the weeks that followed, I began to do what I'd denied myself for years. I changed every lock, upgraded my cameras, not out of fear anymore, but as a reminder. My boundaries are sacred. I went to the bank and opened a brand new account at a branch Michael and Lauren didn't know existed. For the first time in years, that balance was mine and mine alone. I allowed myself joy. I went to the salon, cut my hair, added a brighter color. In the mirror, I saw a new Evelyn, not the woman who lowered her head whenever her daughter-in-law frowned or her son sighed. I bought the red shoes I once put back on the shelf because of their emergency. Then I began planning. I called Diana, my sister in Chicago, who had quietly worried about me for years. "Diana," I said, "I want to visit. And I want to see Europe. Remember when we used to dream about it?" She squealed with delight. "Oh my God, finally! You're thinking about yourself." 3 months later, I sold my big lonely house filled with painful memories and moved into a bright apartment near downtown. No Michael, no Lauren hovering at my doorstep. I chose a place with a small rose garden so Dot and I could plant together. Half the proceeds I donated to an elder abuse prevention nonprofit. The rest I used for travel, art classes, and volunteering. No more waiting by the phone in dread. Now I make the calls. Connecting, sharing, living. I heard Michael and Lauren had to downsize to a smaller apartment. Lauren eventually got a job. Maybe hardship will teach them what my generosity never could. The value of standing on their own feet. One night, sitting on my new balcony under a sky full of Texas stars, I thought about the Evelyn of a year ago. The woman who believed she had to buy love, who trembled at the thought of being left alone. That woman is gone. Now, I am Evelyn Parker, 72 years old. And I know one simple truth. Real love has no price, and freedom is never too expensive. I closed my eyes, letting the night wind brush across my face. For the first time in years, I smiled. Not for anyone else, but for me. It's been a year since I walked out of that courthouse with the verdict in my favor. Every morning in my new apartment, sunlight pours through the windows, and I know I'm living a life I chose. Looking back, I don't feel sorrow anymore. What I feel is gratitude for the painful but priceless lesson. You cannot buy love with money, and blind sacrifice will never sustain it. I remember cutting my own expenses to cover my son and daughter-in-law, waiting for a simple thank you that never came, only more demands. I remember the wedding where they shut me out, saying only truly special people were invited. That sentence cut like a blade, but it also woke me up from years of sleepwalking. I cried, I hurt. I thought I'd lost everything, but in truth, I lost nothing but illusions. What I gained was freedom, self-respect, and a brighter life than I ever imagined at 72. I share this story not to complain, but to speak directly to you. Question mark, question mark. If you are being used or dismissed, remember, you have the right to say no. You don't need to purchase affection. If love requires payment, it isn't love. If you fear loneliness, understand this. Solitude with self-respect is far easier than being surrounded by people who treat you like a breathing ATM. And if you think you're too old to start over, believe me, you're not. I was 72 when I began again, and I have never felt more alive. Now I want to ask you, the listener, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments. I truly want to hear them. If this story resonated with you, please hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. I have more stories to tell. Stories of courage, betrayal, and the long road back to yourself. And before I close, let me leave you with the truth etched into my heart. Real love has no price, and freedom is never too expensive. I'll see you in the next story.